What's going on, guys? It's your boy Speed from 440 Kicks, and today we are going to be discussing the top 5 most fallen off sneakers in terms of price from 2020 to 2025.
Made it out the grease, it made it easy. I've been on the reef and I've been on the never said it's easy, it was never easy. Made it out the grease.
If you guys are curious to get a little knowledge on what once was the best seller and now is no longer selling well, this video is for you. This also will be a very informative video for any resellers out there. These sneakers just might not be shoes you want to be buying to resell, unless of course you're getting them at a good price, which at the end of the day, doesn't matter what the item is selling for, assuming you can get it at a better price. So, quick background about me. My name is Speed, owner of 440 Kicks. We have a store in downtown Cleveland, 1224 Huron Road East in Playhouse Square. And I'm also a live streamer on Whatnot. If you guys haven't tuned into Whatnot yet, make sure you download the app and follow me. We do dollar auctions 5 days a week on the hottest brands under the sun. Just a quick side note as well, I sold my first sneaker in 2015, so being able to sit down and kind of do a 5-year recap, it's really crazy to look at these shoes in front of me and go, wow, these aren't selling for even a fraction of what they used to. It's been crazy to see the trends over the past 10 years in the sneaker game, and if you've been selling sneakers for a while, obviously you've been able to notice those trends as well. But I want to emphasize how important noticing and recognizing trends are. At the end of the day, if you are a business owner or a reseller who is able to identify a trend, you then can keep a dynamic business and continue to grow no matter what the best sellers are, okay? I'm just gonna say this flat out front to you. If you are a static business and selling the same sneakers you have for the past 3, 5, 6, 7 years, unless you're making buku money, I don't know how you'd still be in business, because some of these shoes in front of me used to sell for 7 times what they used to. Again, being a business owner, especially in a retail space, you have to identify trends and what's selling good and what's not selling well. Because at the end of the day, if you have a storefront, every square inch of space is a valuable presentation spot for holding inventory. So if you have, at the end of the day, if you have a bunch of inventory out there that people don't want to see, that people aren't going to spend a price premium on, you're ultimately setting yourself up to fail. So the point of this video is to be informative and to educate you guys on sneaker trends, but also I hope you find some entertainment in this. If you could just do me a favor really quickly, take 5 seconds out of your beautiful day to like, subscribe, and comment what sneaker you wore today. That'd mean the world to us. Again, we're trying to put out as much free game as possible, as much sneaker information and education as possible. I'm not trying to monetize off of this by selling a course. I want to put all of this out there for free, so if you have a heartbeat, a screen, and a Wi-Fi connection, you can watch this and digest this and learn how to run your business better. At the end of the day, I want to be an inspiration to business owners, specifically along the lines of resellers. I came from one shoe, and now we're working with thousands a month, and that can be you too. You just have to follow the key steps and procedures to do so. So keep grinding, don't fucking stop what you're doing, and let's get into the top 5 most fallen off sneakers since 2020, okay? So before we jump into the 5 sneakers in front of me and as to why they are selling for all-time lows, I need you to understand key factors and reasons as to why that is, okay? And there's really 3 of them, if I may. Number 1 covers various market dynamics. What do I mean by market dynamics? I'm talking about supply, demand, and inflation, okay? Back in 2020, 2021, you got a lot of COVID stimulus money going around, and people are buying shoes every day of the week. I mean, the demand was at an all-time high because free money was being passed out to people. And granted, you know, you have good business, good economy. People are making money. They're buying luxury items. Here in 2024, 2025, it's nowhere near what it used to be in 2020. So you have a crazy demand for, say, a Jordan 1, say a Panda Low, but then there's not a lot of supply of it. Nike wasn't pumping out 1 million pairs. I mean, they have an original release, and the people that really want them are willing to pay more than other people. So at the end of the day, you have a Panda 1 or a Panda Low. We were selling these for $350, $400, like, and that's crazy to sit there and think about how we were selling those for $350, $400. But again, market dynamics ultimately led to these shoes' downfall because they pumped supply. There are a ton of restocks, and the demand's at an all-time low. I mean, not everybody and their mother are looking for Jordan 1s, Dunk Lows, and Yeezy 350s anymore. And if they do want them, the supply is at an all-time high to where they can get the best price I've ever gotten on them. And I guess the supply kind of rolls into overproduction, right? We saw in COVID, a lot of sneakers were getting held up on these shipments, you know, coming from overseas, and you have these docks that aren't taking shipments in because of COVID and restrictions. So the supply was I don't know if I want to say all-time low, but it was extremely low. So the people that were able to access the sneakers were paying an exorbitant amount more because there weren't a lot of pairs floating around. You couldn't go on StockX and buy a Panda Dunk Low for under $350 because they had their original release and the pairs that were out there, that was it. Now, since then, Nike has restocked the Panda Dunk probably more times than I can count. I mean, we're talking 50 to 100 plus times. Ultimately, if Nike did not choose to restock the Panda Dunk Low a million times, there would still be a decent price premium, but if you are sad that you can't sell Pandas for $350 anymore, you can thank Nike for that. And then the last thing I would say, other than the supply, demand, and overproduction, the saturation of the market that brands like Nike and Adidas have done, would be shifting trends. Again, we're about to discuss why the Jordan 1 has not sold for the price premium that it used to be. And yes, the supply and demand has a huge factor in that, but another part of that demand is also the trend, right? 2020, I think the sneaker of the year, like the number one was like the Jordan 1 mid. Now going into 2025, you guys check out our most recent video, the top 5 sneakers under $200, the Nike Vomero and the Nike Air Max and the P6000. The regular Nikes are trending right now. Kind of like if you looked at the Hyperdunk and the Roshe Run craze back in the 2015 era, and the LeBron 9s and 10s. There's always going to be trends in sneakers, right? So you have to learn how to ride those trends because everything's a roller coaster. The Jordan 1s are not always gonna be the hottest shoe. Now, there might be a time in 3-4 months, or not even that soon, but maybe 3-4 years, where the Jordan 1s are back to where they were, and every single time they drop a Jordan 1, boom, they sell it instantly, and you can't get a pair into $250, $300. But as it is right now, the trend in the sneaker game, not everybody's looking to buy Jordan 1s, okay? It's kind of an overplayed thing, and it'll come back soon, but as of this very moment, they're not hitting what they used to. Number 1, we're gonna start off with the Jordan 1 High. Now, I will say this has kind of been a roller coaster, okay? If you look at 2015, 2016, 2017, a lot of Jordan 1s were sitting on shelves. I have the Midnight Navy here in front of me. Retailed for $180, came out a couple months ago. This sneaker dropped for $180 retail, and it has never resold over $180, unless of course you own a sneaker boutique and are charging people $220, $250, whatever. This sneaker was available early, so pre-release. I remember seeing these at SneakerCon for $120. So that just goes to show you how low the Jordan 1 sneaker market is right now. You're able to buy pairs early, way under retail. That's never been a thing in the resale game. You look back at 2017, these pairs were sitting on shelves, and then come 2020, they're dropping fire flavors. They had the Fearless ones, the Shattered Backboard 3.0s. They had just put out Michael Jordan's Last Dance documentary, and Jordan 1s were booming. They couldn't stay in stock. Every single one they had released, aside from maybe Jordan 1 Comforts, were hitting for a crazy price premium, and you yourself could walk to your local mall and pick up a pair and make a quick $20, $30. Obviously, this is Jordan's most iconic shoe, if I may. The Jordan 1 has the most units sold of all time, and they've really put out some cool colorways, silhouettes, and collabs. I'm not speaking on the collabs necessarily. Obviously, Jordan 1 Off-White collabs are still selling very well. I mean, you see the Euros and the Chicagos and the UNC's price hike, especially after Virgil passed. Rest in peace, the GOAT. But I mean, not all Jordan 1s are bricks. You have the Lost and Founds. They came out and have sold phenomenally. But when you look at how the sneaker graph has kind of coursed out the past couple years, Jordan 1s that used to sell for $400, $500 are not hitting for that much anymore. And perfect examples to that would be like the Jordan 1 UNC, for example. That released, again, regular retail $180. It immediately, on release day, was selling $350, $400. Started even inching up to the $450, $500 in select sizes. Nowadays, you really can buy any shoe in the Jordan 1 UNC for like $250, $300. So that just goes to show, maybe if you're a sneaker reseller or a store owner that has a Jordan 1 UNC and you're a high cost on it, yeah, you could wait 6-8 months, maybe a year to sell it. Maybe you're turning stock faster than we are. I mean, that's just a sneaker I know. The Jordan 1 UNC specifically, which we'll put up the graph and info there, I could not pay high on that. Just knowing that people can easily go on StockX, GOAT, or eBay and pick up a pair in their size, brand new, for $400 max landed. Like, and more realistically in the $325, $350 range. All right, sneaker number 2 that we're gonna discuss today is the Jordan 1 Mid. Now, I know I referenced this a couple minutes ago, but back in 2019, 2020, maybe even 2021, the Jordan 1 Mid was one of the highest selling Nike silhouettes of all time. I remember going to Cedar Point in 2021, and I probably spotted 50 plus people wearing mids. Why were they so popular? They're Jordan 1s, usually at a fraction of the price. So you had all these people wearing Jordan 1 mids. They were able to get them for $120, $130, $140. They're under the cost of a Jordan 1 High that retails for $180. And people were rocking with the mids. They had a bunch of cool colors coming out, you know, different flavors, the different leather. You know, they got the suede pairs and they got the this and that. This reverse Panda right in front of me, we paid $60 for these. Size runs, brand new. We can't even get 100, 120 on these things. So again, that is one of the most underwhelming sneakers in 2025. $125. And I know the exact example that I pulled for this video, the Jordan 1 Smoke Mid. It was very comparable to the Jordan 1 Dior, right? So everybody wanted the Jordan 1 Mid Smoke because it was very reminiscent of the Jordan 1 Dior that had just dropped. And a lot of people dubbed it the poor man Jordan 1, the poor man Dior. Those Jordan 1 Mid Smokes they reached an all-time high, I think $400 per pair. Like, you could not buy those things in bulk, whether you're buying 1 or 1,000, under the $250 price point. Now, looking at the graph here, those Smoke 1 Mids are selling for literally $115. So again, shoe that had its time. The Jordan 1 Mid was super popular 2020, 2021, maybe even a little bit of 2022. But in terms of a sneaker that's just not really in right now, Jordan 1 Mid is not hitting for that. Not saying that people aren't wearing mids, but I'm just saying if they are going to buy a mid, they're going to be able to access them for retail, and they're not paying more than $150 for a pair of mids unless it's a crazy collab. Sneaker number 3, and I think everybody sees this one coming if you've been selling shoes for a couple years. Dunk lows in general, and my perfect example of this is the Panda, okay? Let me take you back for a minute here. SneakerCon Cleveland, December of 2021. I had a table of about 15 pairs of these. I think my buy-in cost was $310, and the lowest I would sell a pair for was $350. We were selling a couple sizes for $400. So this is a shoe that at one point in time, people were paying $400 for, that nowadays, if you want to go on StockX and buy a pair, you can get a pair under retail landed with processing, shipping, and taxes. It is the craziest thing ever. Now again, why did this happen? Well, there's really 2 reasons. One, I don't think Nike's ever restocked a shoe as much as they have the Panda. I mean, they have done weekly restocks on this thing. And I think that was Nike probably milking the community, knowing that they could sell 7 million pairs of these instead of 1 million. But also, at the end of the day, I think Nike wants a basic pair like a Panda to be accessible to the general public, right? It's not like a Travis Scott collab where they're gonna drop it one time and they want that hype to stay in the sneaker. Like, no, they don't want people paying $450 on these. They'd rather sell them 7 million times over and get retail on them, which they're making good money at that if you couldn't figure. So Dunk Low Pandas, again, nowadays, lowest asks are sitting between 60 and 75 bucks. This was a pair we've sold upwards of 400, and nowadays, I mean, we're barely getting 150 on them. Like, we'll buy them in a little under $100 range, and then we'll charge 150 on them. Like, if somebody wants to come in and buy them for 150, it's a fair price. Could they find them cheaper? Sure. But at the end of the day, I don't want to be buying the shoe 7 times a month, you know? So we could put them out there for 100. That just means we're buying and doing a lot of work. Listen, 150, that's what we got them priced at. We don't sell a ton of them for that because, again, they're, you know, but you have to have a staple like that in the store. Like, having a staple like a Panda Dunk Low. Now, listen, if you guys are thinking you're doing something with the crazy fit with the Panda Low, I'm sorry to tell you, but they're not that special, okay? This is a shoe that is an everyday stepper. You're wearing them to the gym, wearing them to the club, wearing them to work, or maybe that's just your one go-to dunk, all right? But the hype that this shoe once had is completely vanished, and I don't think will ever come back. Now, maybe that's a cold take, I don't know. Shoe number 4 that we're going to discuss today is a little broader, but we're going to discuss Air Force One collabs, okay? Now, not as much so in the sense of off-white collabs, okay? Anything that has off-white in it, unless it's one of the crazy track runners or the mids they've done, it's gonna hold its value and appreciate over time, especially since Virgil Abloh has passed, rest in peace the GOAT. Those sneakers, those off-white Air Forces are forever going to raise in value as the supply is put out. They're never gonna restock that shoe. It's not a cheap shoe, and the people that are going to pay for that, they're gonna pay a nice coin for it, a premium. But what I have in front of me here is the Cactus Jack Utopia Air Forces. Now, these dropped very shortly after the release of the Utopia album, maybe a year and a half ago. I'll have Rosa put the release date here. But these retail for 180 bucks, and people were paying upwards of 250, 300 for them. Nowadays, you can score the Utopia Air Force Ones for well under 150. I mean, it's kind of, I bought like 2 pairs at retail. They took 6 weeks to ship out, and then when you get them in hand, they were already worth under retail. So again, that's a weird one because it is a Travis Scott, you know, collab, but this is a very basic sneaker. That's why we're not talking about Travis Scott SBs. Again, that's something they release one time, and then they're gonna forever rise from there, whether it's a Jordan 1 Low, whether it's the Air Forces they've done. The only thing that I can think would be an exception to that, other than like a basic Air Force, like the Utopia here, would be like the Travis Scott, what is it, the Jordan 33s or whatever, because they're not rocking 33s, you know. The other example that we have that we're gonna put on the screen here is the Air Force One Clot, the blue pair. Again, I think those released in 2019, I wanna say. And when those came out, those were kind of hitting for $350, even $400s for a long while. Nowadays, you can secure a pair of those for a little over 200 bucks. And it's crazy to see something like a Clot collab on an Air Force One that came out the gate firing at 400. They're selling for half of that now. Now again, why is that? I don't want to say Air Force Ones aren't a trend. The Clots and these Utopias, I mean, the Utopias, they put an insane amount of supply on. But something with the Clot, it's not that they've restocked those necessarily. It's just something where the hype is not what it once was. was. So again, if you're a sneaker shop or a reseller that has these, that you bought in at a high cost, I'd really recommend dumping them and reinvesting in something like an ASIC Gel 1130, something that's trending right now, because people are just not shelling out hundreds of dollars on a collab Air Force One unless it's a Travis Scott or an Off-White collab. That's just the reality of it. One other thing I'd probably say are the Air Force One, the Halloween collabs. You know, those drop in October and they're hitting premiums, and then a couple months after, you know, they kind of go way under that. I mean, they usually release a different color every year. I think they started with the orange one, and then they did the black and white, and then they did the white and black and like the purple. I don't know, I might be mixing those up a little bit, but that's a really cool touch that Nike does for a seasonal release. And again, that's not a shoe you're gonna get rich off on. Like, that's a shoe where you buy it on release day or a week after, and you're trying to get rid of those as fast as possible. It's not an investment sneaker, okay? None of these shoes are investment sneakers. They're not shoes that you wanna sit on. Now, the last sneaker that I wanna discuss here that we have on the board, Yeezy 350s. Now, out of all of these sneakers on the table, this is arguably the most mind-boggling shoe on this list. I mean, let's take a jump back here. 2018, 2019, you have Yeezy 350s dropping. I forget, let me look this up real quick. I wanna put an exact date. 2015, let's take a step back for a minute. 2015, Yeezy and Adidas released the Turtle Dove, Yeezy 350 Turtle Dove. That was one of the most hype sneaker releases of the decade, if not the most. And again, I'm 23 years old. I started selling my first shoes in 2015. So I'm sure there are a lot of other sneakers that you could call to mind, maybe for an OG that had a crazier hype than that. But arguably, the Yeezy 350 Turtle Dove was one of the craziest releases of all time. Like, that is not a cold take there. If you were in the game when that happened, you know what I'm talking about. Fast forward 10 years later, okay, Yeezy and Adidas have a crazy falling out. Now, obviously, who's to sit here and say in 2020 that would have ever happened? Obviously, everybody thought Adidas and Yeezy were both making a ton of money off the collabs, and like, oh, those releases and collabs are never gonna go anywhere. Well, they kind of started to shoot pricing down when they started pumping out so many colors. Again, this is where the supply from a company kind of plays into what the sneaker's going for in the streets. I mean, that's just the whole supply and demand resell thing. So they start dropping multiple colors, okay? They got the blue tints, and they got the Oreos, and they got the breads, and you know, and they're just pumping every color out in the book, which props to them. Everybody wanted to rock other colors, whatever. But it kind of started saturating the Yeezy 350 market and the Yeezy market as a whole, and the Yeezy 350s that always would hit for $1,000 no matter what the color is, there's a lot of pairs selling under $200 right now. Another thing that plays into that, Yeezy 350s are kind of like Panda Dunk. Adidas has restocked them so many times. Now again, there's a couple reasons for that. One of the reasons is Kanye had said a long time ago he wants everybody in the world to be able to buy a pair of Yeezys. So yeah, I'm sure that they liked that there were these price premiums over retail, but at the same time, they wanted to keep restocking the shoe because they didn't necessarily want to create a shoe that was worth $1,000. They wanted a shoe that they would be able to consistently sell out of at retail, which is $220, and they did exactly that. Now you get to a point where they've done a lot of restocks, and then Adidas and Yeezy have a falling out. So what happens after that falling out happens? Adidas is sitting on millions of pairs of 350s that they need to let go of. And not even just 350s, Yeezys as a whole. We're talking the 350 Comfort or the Compacts, whatever. Again, we don't really sell Yeezys as much as we did, or as much as we used to. We don't really sell Yeezys as much as we've used to, other than slides, because slides are just, slides are an inexpensive buy-in, and it's something that a lot of people, I mean, I'm wearing my slides right now. Like, these are my go-tos. But in terms of 350s, you saw pairs that would release and sell $400, $500, $600, and now, you know, you could buy a bunch of colors. I mean, I can call a couple of them out. You got the Yeezy 350 Onyx, and you got the 350 Bones. Those are selling for $160 right now. Again, never in the history of sneakers have Yeezys sold under $200. That's a shoe that's always sold out, that always sells for $250, $300, $400 plus. And now in 2025, the Yeezy 350s aren't as popping as they used to be. Now, obviously, you know, the older colors, the Turtle Doves and the Moon Rocks and the Pirate Blacks, like the OG 350s, again, these are the 350 V2s, the blue tints specifically. Those are still, you know, selling pretty well. But I will say something that's killed my heart as a sneaker reseller, and I don't know about you guys, but they restocked some of the most classic styles. Sneakers always, to me, has been an investment game, okay? I like building a collection out of really cool sneakers, knowing that I'm spending a decent amount of money on them for them to continue to appreciate and value, okay? Everything in the sneakers game is an asset. You have some assets like this, that if you bought them at $400, that's a crazy buy-in price, because this shoe has now been restocked and your shoe's worth $100. Same thing has happened with the 350s, okay? They restocked the 350 Turtle Doves. The 350 the shoe that people were going crazy over, that like if you were in middle school or high school and hit the shoe, your year was made. Like, we're talking one of the greatest releases of all time, and Adidas just goes, yep, we're just gonna restock them. Blows my mind. Imagine you're a person back in 2015, 2016 that paid $700 for that shoe. You're sitting on it for years. Granted, it's not appreciating 15% every year, but now you're sitting on a shoe that you paid $700 for. It's damn near worth $1,400, $1,500. And then what do they do in 2024? They restock Turtle Dove 350s. Now, again, those pairs are still selling for a couple $100. I don't think you're really grabbing a turtle dove under $250, $300. But still, just the thought of buying a shoe to invest on it and then you're shitting on it for years in your collection, and for Adidas to just re-release a classic, it's mind-blowing to me. It's like if they were to restock the Air Mags or the Red Octobers tomorrow. And they've done the same thing across the board. Every 350 colorway is basically restocked. You have the Yeezy boots, the NSL TDs, the runner boots. I mean, they've restocked all of that stuff, all the foam runners, all the slides. So again, this is a perfect example of a company trying to milk what they've made, which rightfully so. Again, if I was that company, I'd probably restock it a couple times, knowing that I'm able to sell out at retail. But in terms of an investment sneaker and a sneaker that has died trend-wise, Yeezys in general, especially the 350s in terms of the price points, fits that list. Now, I know I did a lot of rambling there, and I hope you guys found the graphs a little entertaining here. But again, I'm just trying to emphasize sneakers are trends, okay? Not what's selling best in 2020 is not necessarily going to be selling really good in 2025. So being an effective sneaker reseller, being a one step ahead of the curve, is identifying trends and being able to adapt to those trends, okay? Now, 350s are going to continue to sell. Everybody and their mother that are sneakerheads have owned a 350 at some point. But it's just about recognizing a better buy cost, okay? If you're able to buy 350s for 120, 130, which a lot of people are, I mean, I have lists sent to me every day on those, and you're still able to charge $200, that's a win-win, because you have an end consumer coming in your store, they'll pay under retail for it, but you got it way under retail, so you're winning, they're winning. The 350s are still semi-relevant. But in terms of price premiums from original retail, the Jordan 1 high, the Jordan 1 mid, Dunk lows, specifically silhouettes like Pandas, St. John's, Syracuse, and Kentuckies, some Air Force One collab, and Yeezy 350s are not selling what they used to be. I hope you guys enjoyed this video and learned a little bit. If you're a sneakerhead like me, a lot of this was basic knowledge, but maybe you were sitting from the house wondering why Panda Dunks aren't what they used to be. If you guys could just do me one more favor, again, take 5 seconds and like the video, comment below what you think the craziest fall off of these 5 is, and hit that subscribe button. We are going to be continuing to drop sneaker content all of 2025, multiple times a week on here, YouTube Shorts, TikTok, Instagram, and again, make sure you guys are tuning into our whatnot. Until next time, it's been your boy Spee from 440 Kicks, and y'all stay blessed, and we'll catch you on the next vid. Peace.
Bitch wanna fuck me, get your ass in. Don't you hang up on that all that fast shit.